The Winnipeg Jets mid-season report card chat. What is going on with Evander Kane? Nazem Kadri snub. Is the NHL All-Star Game even worth it? All that and more on episode 20 of the Prairie Puck podcast. Welcome. I am your host, Coach Ryan D, along with my co-hosts, Jake from Peg City Hockey and the Nolan brothers from the Nolan Hockey podcast. Carter and Zach, what's going on?
Doing good, doing good, Ryan. Happy to do another episode. It's been a long time.
It's been a minute, and the new year has been crazy, and work has been nuts, and everything has been absolutely crazy. Zach, you're going to have to take a second before you dial back in here, because you are frozen.
Yeah, Welcome. You're lagging a little.
Now you're back.
You're back in. Oh, and now he's gone. And now he's back, I think. Or screen. There he is.
Yeah,
Welcome
there
back.
I am.
You know how it is, ladies and gentlemen. It wouldn't be an episode of the Prairie Puck podcast if we didn't have one thing go wrong. But getting back on topic, Ryan, where were we again? I don't remember because Zach made me lose my train of thought.
I think we're here and we're going to talk about the mid-season report card for the Winnipeg Jets. You know, it's been an up and down season, mostly down, and you got to say, like, the low-hanging fruit here is that this team, in my opinion, deserves a D, maybe a C. I even borderline F, but I'm going to settle on D because any team that is butted against the salary cap right to the dollar with the depth that the Winnipeg Jets have, regardless of the coaching situation and that has happened, they're number 6. They're a few points out of the playoffs. Money Puck has them at 42% to make the playoffs right
now. Better than what I saw, 37.
And boys, I don't know if you guys have noticed it. I don't know if the guys listening to this channel have noticed it, but the 4 teams above us have just been dominant and on streaks.
Absolutely.
I don't know why Nashville's number 1.
No.
It doesn't matter. They're 8-1-1. Colorado is the second best team in the NHL only because their goaltending is weaker than theirs their counterparts in the East, Tampa Bay. St. Louis is still doing pretty good. Minnesota is doing well. Cam Talbot to the All-Star game is. And you know what? It's just Dallas is streaking. So if the Winnipeg Jets don't put together like a 7 or 8 game streak here, they're probably boned. So I'm going to say it's a D.
I honestly agree with you, Ryan. I think it's a D for me as well. And I would give them an F. You guys know how critical I am, and I think that would be justified. But I think a D just because at least there has been some positives this season. I'm grabbing at straws here, but there have been some. You know, like the Nate Schmidt acquisition has been a great addition to this team. Paying the price we paid, a 3rd-round pick to bring him in. He's got term. He's been a great fit with Josh Morrissey. He's helped him rebound his game. I think that's a positive. But when it comes to overall play, the cap situation, everything that's just kind of built up to the way it is, and how Paul Maurice left this team, and all the coaching stuff that was going on before it, how they're handling prospects, and now you have this COVID wave that is consuming this team, where you had half the Manitoba Moose roster that injected into the lineup tonight. So this season's been all over the place, and yeah, I can find some positives as a fan, but I gotta agree with Coach Ryan D on this one and give them a D because this season's just sad. It's the only way to describe it. It's a letdown. It's pathetic.
Absolutely. Nolan brothers?
Card, do you want to go first?
You know, if you told me after we made those acquisitions that making the playoffs, we would have a lower we would have a lower chance than Nashville and some of these other teams at making the playoffs by a large margin, I'd think like, what the hell happened? And what the hell has happened? You know, it's one of those things where there's every year we've had, it's always been, well, we got this and we got that, but we don't have this, but we think we can go with that. We think we can still move. We have everything now. There's nothing we don't have. Because the question that we had was, is Comrie going to be a good enough backup? I'd say he's good enough as a backup.
I agree.
As you will need to move forward. And we fixed the defense from last year, and we've done nothing with it. You know, it's one of those things where it's now just, and I was talking with Jake earlier today about this, now you got to rally the troops. You have everything you have. Now you just need to get the great players you have to play great. So that's my take on it.
Yeah. So I would say this, as most of my parents react to the grade, D for disappointing. This team as a whole had so much potential going in. Actually, quite frankly, let's just say it this way. This team going in gave us pretty much the most amount of optimism we've had since 2019. There was a good, 2 to 3 year bubble where we just kind of were like, okay, we're on the precipice of something, but we're not everything is like, we're going to need to carry something. Here we've looked at this and we said, we have all the pieces. And then pretty much on, not even at the halfway mark, because keep in mind, the Jets are not a second half team. And we can actually say that after so many years that the Jets are not a second half team. They haven't been since 2018. Every second half has been a slow decline off the top of the mountain of the division. And now we sit there and look at the bottom of the mountain. We're just like, huh, that's a bit of a climb, huh? And pretty much the way I see it is this team needs to almost break into a playoff spot by 41 games. Like, because at 41 games, this team has a terrible reputation and needs to at least stay 500, which they have trouble doing in the second half because... And it's not even just like a time of the year thing. It's a style thing. Usually teams catch on to how the Jets play by mid-February, late January. They've caught on to the Jets play style. And to see teams like Arizona drag out 2 points off us in a game where we don't score, to see teams like San Jose drag us out 3 points out against us, and these are teams that not even all of them are contending, but the fact that you're dragging extra points out, this team is terrible in extra time. Let's get that out of the way. This team used to be known for being good in extra time. They're not. They keep giving up extra points. Add our points together, we actually might be in,
the Terminator has arrived.
You're kind of...
As expected, Nolan brothers are having technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen, and that's okay. I'm gonna wait. I'll just keep the conversation going a little bit with Ryan. I'll throw this over to you. Oh, we might be coming back. Oh. All right. Well, I'm going to throw this question out because of what kind of Carter was saying about how we have everything now, right? That's what everyone said going into the season, and we've always had an excuse going into one. And before this, based on, need, right? And we don't have a backup goaltender. We don't have a defense. We don't have this. We don't have a second-line center, blah, 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 blah. And then this year, we get everything put together. We go into it. I think what comes down to this problem with this team and why we're being struggled so much, and it's not really coaching, even though coaching has something to do with it, and I'm not, talking about Paul Morrissey here. I'm talking about the players. The players out there look like they're just out there to play hockey. And I'll explain what I mean by that. They're not having fun. They look like they're just implementing everything they learn in a practice, everything a coach tells them to do, everything a struggling team tries to do. They're overthinking everything. They're trying to be too formulaic. They're not being... when was the last time you saw the Jets really put on a show like we've seen in the past? It hasn't been this season. Even last season, it was going away a little bit. This year, they just don't look... They look like a team that doesn't have fun. They look like a team that is desperately trying to, get any type of thing going, but they just can't. I just don't know. I think there's something going on in the heads of the players. I really do at this point, because you've got so much talent and nothing gets done with it.
Well, Jake, I've been saying this for 2 years, and it's unfortunate because it makes you public enemy number one in the bars with your friends when you talk to it. But since the Winnipeg Jets, it's probably been 3 years, since the Winnipeg Jets trip to the conference final, that disastrous year after where the expectations were uber high, and we heard about, the Lowry Scheifele girlfriend incident that may or may not have been true. It's irrelevant. All the infighting, the Bufflin Wheeler stuff, etc., etc., etc. I said repeatedly, where there's smoke, there's fire, and something's going on with the chemistry. And I think the Jets are at where they're at right now. It's because of management. People don't like to hear that because Chevy's very popular, Chipman's very popular. But it is. You have to be able to take an inventory and assess what is going on in your team and make sure it works. It's not just about talent. And we have a lot of commenters, fans, wonderful people on our channel that talk about it in the Jets groups. But it gets old after a while talking about this player or line combinations, because that isn't what really wins hockey games. Name me a player on the Carolina Hurricanes after Sebastian Aho. I dare you.
Example.
But it's a dominant team because the team itself is very good. Look at the Minnesota Wild. People told me the Wild have nobody. Well, they don't need to have a somebody outside of Kirill Kaprizov because the team has an identity and the team is a swagger. The St. Louis Blues have lived on this since their cup win.
Exactly.
And the fact that Kevin Cheveldayoff and Mark Chipman couldn't see what I could see as just a general fan is that The team chemistry, the coach, all of it was lost, and it required Paul Maurice to resign, which was a very classy, high-level move by Maurice at the time. I thought he went out with his head held high.
So do I.
But it should have been changed 2 years ago because it wasn't working. They should have started this 2 years ago when it was there, got that new voice in. We lost out on guys like Boudreau. Look what he's doing in Vancouver. Other opportunities for people to be in there. And now we're taking a flyer on Dave Lowry, who I'm going to talk about in a minute after we go through the Jets report card here. But you got to take a flyer on an interim coach, Dave Lowry, that's disrupted your season. So I don't see how you can't give it anything but a D. And I don't see how we can't at least take pause and think about Kevin Cheveldayoff and his moves that he's made, because he's made the picks and brought the players in, and there's no question that they're talented. But were they the right mix? Were they the right style to play in this market? We're a small market in the middle of Canada, and we spend a lot of time picking American and European players who take time to assimilate to the culture, the climate, and what's going on here, as opposed to looking at the WHL, the OHL, and the QHL for just beastly players like PLD that play a two-way Canadian game. We avoid them for some reason.
I don't understand it either. I've wondered that about this team for a long time, and then, if it wasn't Finnish people we were drafting, it was some Swedes, and if it wasn't Swedes, it was Danes, and then now it's looking like we're going down the path of Russia. And yeah, I'm always about getting world prospects and exploring other leagues and finding that talent, but I agree, this team and this management, for some reason, like when you look at its drafting record, they haven't taken and I don't want to talking about like getting the Canadian boy and stuff like that, but like I like what you said, a two-way player, a good solid two-way guy that has a good two-way game that can carry his head up high through the neutral zone and make big plays and hits and get in front of the net and score gritty goals, win face-offs if he's a centerman or whatever. We don't have a lot of that. Mark Scheifele, we drafted him first draft pick, right? You kind of make that argument, a good two-way center who's had some decline in his career in some elements of his defensive game. But yeah, you can make that argument, right? Good all-around Canadian boy, two-way game who understands what the market's like. Jacob Trouba, an American player, doesn't understand the Canadian market, didn't want to be here, is gone, right? Josh Morrissey, a Canadian player, born and raised in Canada, played in the WHA, wants to spend his whole career here and signs the longest contract on the team, right? Like, it sends the message that when you have these players that are staying compared to the ones that aren't and who's fitting in, that maybe this team does have a problem with assimilating the wrong type of talent from certain areas of the ice. That maybe they look good, but they don't form as well on the ice together anymore. And I agree with what you said earlier, too, Ryan, about the whole chemistry aspect. Ever since the loss to St. Louis, this team has lost any real chemistry it's had with any of its former stars, right? Like Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler were the only people you could get any type of chemistry out, and even then you were forcing it by playing them 23-plus minutes a night every game and refusing to remove and adapt your lineup if you're Paul Maurice because it was the only chemistry you had left, right? Like, I couldn't agree more with you. There's just so many, we're at a crossroads as fans, I feel like, We wanted Maurice gone for a long time, a lot of us. He's gone. Nothing's really changed. And I know Dave Lowry isn't the best new voice for this team, but still you would expect something to kind of change, right? And we haven't seen that. And I think now we're at this real crossroads, and I think we've talked about it together on the show and individually. I think you need to start really looking at moving out a staple of this franchise to really kind of change things up and change the trajectory, which is being a cap team that's going to be out of the playoffs.
Well, I'm going to argue you on Dave Lowry later, but I want to really clarify why I'm picking on the Americans and the Finns, and then I can't wait to get Zach and Carter's opinion on it. The reason is, for people listening, it's not their nationality or where anybody's from. It's the way the hockey works in those systems.
Exactly.
In the Finnish system, in the American system, the Swedish system, when you're a top player, you get isolated as a top player into the top teams, and you never leave. So you're always getting big minutes on the best teams, and there's really no competition to have to fight up and down the roster. You get very used to it. The Canadian players playing in the CHL play in the CHL at age 16 and 17, and they go from top-end talent to buried in the lineup, barely making the team because they're young kids, and they scratch and claw their way back up to the top. Then when they play for Canada in the junior tournaments or under 18 tournaments, they have to claw and scratch their way to make it. And you see it time and time again. Top-end Canadian centers and talent go, I'll play the wing. I'll take the third line. I'll take the fourth line. For God's sakes, just put me on the team. And they assume a role and they play up and down the roster. Whereas guys like, and I'm going to use Kyle Connor as an example. Kyle Connor has never been anything but a top line player. He deserves it. He's good. But I fear if he would have stayed in the AHL any longer than he did, he could have started spiraling out of control. And if we take a look at 2 draft picks, for instance, like Kyle Connor or Chaz Lucius, I love that name. Both are supremely talented. Lucius is going to work out. Connor's obviously a beauty. But let's do the redo here. They avoided Seth Jarvis, who's played in the NHL right now as a power player for Cole Perfetti. Was that the right call? I don't know. I really like Perfetti, but we missed on Jarvis. Before we go,
Okay, I just have a point after this.
We gave up Carson Lambos, who will likely play a top 4 role for Minnesota as a defenseman from one of the best WHL teams in the league for Chaz Lucius. I still don't know if that was the right call. And you take a look at Kyle Connor. I love Kyle Connor, but Matt Barzal, the OHL player, was the pick, and he was sitting there. Connor was the scorer, and he ended up falling. But you put a gun to my head and say Barzal or Connor, it's Barzal.
Okay, that's a little... You know what? I can understand where you're coming from about Barzal. I've never been as high on Barzal as other people have, and preferably, honestly, Kyle Connor getting a 50-goal season this year is better than, which in my opinion is a good second-line center on a cup-contending team. I don't see Barzal as
Barzal is a first-line center. Take it to the bank. He's an all-star. He's an Olympian.
He's
Barzal,
great, but he's not
Barzal's top 15
center. He's not top 5 center in the league.
Yes, he is.
Are you high?
Yes, he is.
Zach,
No.
oh,
boy.
No. Drugs he's smoking. You put Matthew Barzal as the top 5 center in the entirety of the NHL. Talking about every center. I'm
putting him in the top 15.
Top 15 for sure makes sense. I'm not arguing top 15. I'm talking about him being the number 1 guy. Kyle Connor right now is arguably outside of the players you have in like obviously the top teams like in Tampa Bay and guys like that, and then obviously Connor McDavid and Draisaitl. When you look at what Kyle Connor is doing on a team that is definition of mediocrity, he is incredible. And I'm not arguing about tomato. They're both fantastic players, but to say that you would, I don't know. I just don't agree with that.
It's not that Kyle Connor is an elite. It's that teams are built in the back end and they're built down the middle.
We have that. Mark Scheifele and Pierre-Luc Dubois are great centers.
Imagine Mark Scheifele playing line 3 with Barzal playing line 2 and Pierre-Luc Dubois playing line 1.
Yeah, but you'd have to be talking about giving up Line A there, and then it's a whole other situation. Do you give up Line A for PLD in that situation because you have Barzal playing with Scheifele? You want to go down that road, we can. But
wait. Actually, do you want to go down that road? Because you have said very publicly about how you would still, if you had the option, you would go back and say that you would not trade Patrick Line by Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Because I still don't think
so your logic, you are saying that Pierre-Luc Dubois, then instead of worrying about 3 defensemen for the top 2 spots, you have Matt Barzal with possibly a Patrick Laine on the wing.
Yes, and that would be amazing. And that means that Patrick Laine would have never been unhappy, never not been a top line player, and blah, 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 and we would all be happy.
So would you take that over what we have now?
Yes, but that's a hypothetical world where we're trading Laine unhappy. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yes, I'm just saying that, like,
again, you're arguing my point, kind of going against me. I'm not saying that Matthew Barzal is a bad player. I'm not arguing that at all. I think Matthew Barzal is great. I just don't think that he's a top 5 guy in the league when it comes to centers. I think he's maybe top 10. You could argue, but top 5.
I say top 10. Top 10
on an Islanders team that's
top
garbage?
10. I'd say for sure.
Like, come on.
I wouldn't go top 5 center either.
Like,
I go top 10.
He's fast, but he's not. He doesn't have enough there.
You said top 5 minutes ago.
No. He fucking. Don't put it where.
No, I did not. I did not say anything.
I just said.
Am I talking to you?
I just said that you dunked on Barzal. And I immediately said, whoa.
And I said, and then you're top 5 center in the league. Do you see him as top 5 center in the league? And you said,
I didn't say anything.
Let's calm it down there.
Let's calm it down there. At the end of the night,
hey, everybody. Hey, everybody shut up. Everybody shut up. We all agree he's a top 10 center. End it. Cut it.
Oh, we're allowed to talk and argue if we want. This is what the people want. They want to see Zach going after Jake.
Okay, fine. Kill each other. I don't care anymore. Just kill each other.
Oh, yeah, that's why. Yeah,
because goalies can just sit back and watch the play and criticize everything and everybody, right?
We see your fucking
play. You might get by it, not fucking realizing that you played the glove
Jake, how many times did you back check playing hockey?
That's great, actually. I was a very good defenseman.
I bet you were.
Probably better than your glove side.
Oh, yeah, totally. Shoot glove side all day. You will not see a whiff of that net.
Me and you both know that your glove side is bad. I don't know how many times you told me that. So it's okay. You know what? I think the people even know.
I said my blocker
okay.
side is dog, but my glove side will catch every goddamn puck you put
Maybe
there.
A beach ball, bud. Maybe a beach ball. Maybe you can go down to Florida and Kodak Black.
How you doing,
You
Ryan?
couldn't shoot a beach ball. Get out of here.
All right. Well, this is definitely
Moving on.
Jets anymore.
Yeah, I guess we're not playing Red Dead together anymore. This is.
You're out of my gang.
evil.
I'm going over to play Vanguard with Ryan tonight. Seriously. I don't even own Vanguard, but I'll buy it because me and you are.
You'll go sit on his couch. You'll sit on his couch.
Did I just witness a breakup?
We might have.
It's fine. I'm over it.
All right. Well, I think since we've all talked about the Jets, should we mention?
Let's let Ryan take this one away.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, Ryan.
So
Steer us away.
this was the point that I was just taking away, is that when it comes to being a GM or into management, you got to make sure that you have the right chemistry. Cheveldayoff is one of the best at drafting value. He knows who's going to be a very good player. There's no question about it. But when you take a look at it and you go, is that the right fit for the team at this point? Because it's not like we're playing fantasy sports. In fantasy sports, you take the value, you can trade it. That's not going to really happen in the NHL. You got to make sure you're picking the right guys in order to get them through. And if we do a quick little exercise here, if I take a look at, and I think we've got to start, you know what, I'll start with 2020. Let's go ahead and take a look at Winnipeg's 2020 pick. They end up taking Cole Perfetti 10. Seth Jarvis, I've kind of gone on note to say that might have been the pick, but I did just say you take the center, so I think it takes way too much time to figure out which one of these two are going to work out.
Also, if Cole Perfetti was given an NHL opportunity right now, like Jarvis has, we could be having a different argument. That's the big
Also, this was kind of a sign of somebody dropping, as opposed to, like, Cole Perfetti kind of dropped us. It's not like we had a choice to... It's one of those things where you don't really pick the guy. It's like one of those where the guy just goes to you. And we kind of had the same with Chaz Lucius, where the guy just falls to us, and instead of us making, like, an educated pick and picking above what was expected, the guy comes to us.
Yep. Well, Cole Perfetti is also an OHL player, so it fits the mold. Ville Heinola in 2019, that ends up being the correct pick at that time when you take a look at it. When you move down to 2018, did Winnipeg give up it? Or did we
did
pick
not
in
draft
this
in
one?
2018.
We gave it up. We gave it up. Did we draft? We gave it up in 2017 too, didn't we?
We gave it up for who?
2018.
Was this Stastny?
2018 would have been Stastny.
And then 17 was for
2017 was Christoph Vesalainen. And I would say, you know, when you look through here, really Nicholas Hagee. It's probably it. It wasn't a bad pick. Like,
can you remind me again, Ryan? Was Vesalainen drafted 24th?
24th, yeah.
Yes, it was. Okay, so yeah, it was later in the draft that year. It makes sense. You know, you're picking the bottom of the barrel.
So far at this point, nobody out of there, I would say, was a massive miss. Then Patrick Laine, obviously Pierre-Luc Dubois is the pick at that point, but it ends up working out anyway. But it looks like at this point Pierre-Luc Dubois would be the pick, the big Canadian two-way center. Yeah, well, that's where it gets easier as an exercise to be able to see it. And you got to remember, people go, oh, this is hindsight, you can't see it. Well, guess what? They're paid $1 million a year and $300,000 a year as a scout to get this right. So I have really no remorse when they miss like that. The Jack Roslovic pick, and then you take a look. We already talked the Kyle Connor pick in 2015. The one who ends up coming after that is Thomas Chabot, Matt Barzell, Joel Eriksson-Ek. I mean... 6 one way, half a dozen the other at that point. Once you pick Roslovic from the States, the disappointing thing is Anthony Beauvillier was there, and we never go to the queue. Beauvillier was clearly the player
Nikolai Ehlers.
to pick at that time, but maybe Roslovic gets a better crack if he actually gets some time in, you know, on the roster at that point. And then one more year back into 2014 here. Winnipeg picked Nikolai Ehlers, which was obviously a slam dunk. Crazy to see that it went Willie Nylander and then Nikolai Ehlers back to back, and both were pretty damn good picks.
Yeah, very similar too.
I think a lot of Jets fans would say they like Ehlers better. I'll be honest, from covering the league, it's Nylander that's the better player of the two, but they're both dynamic, and we didn't have a chance at Nylander, but they're both very good picks. Nick Ritchie, bust. We all know that who came after it. Kevin Fiala, I mean, he's got a role to play. Brandon Perlini's got a role to play. Dylan Larkin would have been an American that ends up getting picked up. I'm actually very surprised that we went to the Q and took Ehlers as opposed to Larkin, just based on a track record of Americans, but both were good picks. So Ehlers is the right pick at that point when you look down here, unless you really wanted to go to David Pastrnak in Sweden, but you got to say he ends up hitting it at that point. But the big question to wrap it up comes back with is where the Jets are at today. All these players are playing in their roster, and the combo isn't working. And it's not just a coaching thing. It's a culture and how the pieces fit together thing. It's a style you want to play. So we'll see. I told you I'd tell you that, I'd defend Dave Lowry here for a minute.
I think
Dave
Lowry too. I would just like to point out, I do like Dave Lowry. I would like to just
I think Dave Lowry is a quality coach, and I think if Dave Lowry had been told at the beginning of the year, if we knew this was where it was going to the NCAA, would be okay. So I don't think Jets fans should jump off a cliff about Lowry. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but if you take the Colorado game out, do you know the Jets have a 100% penalty kill?
Yes.
Dave Lowry has turned this around. I do.
Yeah.
And I said it for 4 years when people were like, you don't like Paul Maurice. His penalty kills below 70%. That's a coach's area. Well, players got to play, not on the penalty kill. That's a coach's area. Exactly. And look at this. Outside of a juggernaut Colorado Avalanche, he's at 100%.
I also even like to point out that in that Colorado game, even though we lost 7-1, and it's the third time we've lost 7-1 within the last 365 days, that was not a terrible 7-1 loss. We looked good for half that game. But then we just completely fell apart. So, I completely agree with you, Ryan. I like Dave Lowry. I really like how he's implemented, how he's dispersed the minutes. Paul Maurice just stacked his top 6 and stacked his top 4 and never used anything else. And you look at tonight, for example, you know that next to Josh Morris, Dylan DeMello, the highest player for minutes on the penalty kill was a rookie, and it was Dylan Sandberg. That is something that Paul Maurice never would have done. But you saw a guy thriving in a game and give him an increased role, see what he can do when he thrived in it. He's been so good at those minutes dispersion. I really, really liked what I've seen from him so far there. The penalty kill, everything you're hitting head on the nail. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and what I was literally about to say it, but Ryan took the words right out of my mouth in the sense of if he had been there, being the main voice since the start of the season to really get his grip on the team, I really think we could be looking at a different scenario right now. I think all we can do at this point is really hope he gets his own grasp on the team. Even though obviously he was there when Paul Maurice was there, but kind of makes some changes to make it his own and really brings all the boys together, to get everything going.
It's just about making it more a sum of the parts than the sum of the top guys, honestly. Let everyone play where they when they excel. Play up to your no, it's not even playing up to your minutes, it's play for your minutes, honestly.
Yes.
Just play for your minutes and that will work. Because when they use guys, and I'm not saying go crazy with depth, but when depth plays not depth, actual talent, use them. Don't say a word. And then here's the one kicker. If Christian Vesalainen goes off into the forest for 15 games, play him on the fourth line or scratch him. Don't play him. Because I haven't seen Vesa do anything since a game against Nashville at the beginning of the season. He has 3 points.
Replace him with one of the AHL guys.
Exactly.
And I don't know if Winnipeg fans realize the Manitoba Moose, one of the hottest teams, best teams.
Yes,
in the
they
AHL,
are.
So our depth
they got
just fine.
Look at tonight. Tonight's a prime example of what the depth can do.
Poganski.
You had half of the Manitoba Moose, basically, it felt like, in their top 6 was called up into this game tonight in their defense. We had 2 rookie defenders make their NHL debuts, and both were great and didn't even play less than 10.
And a perfect penalty kill. Perfect penalty kill
Where
on
the
a
rookies
6-on-3.
I think what this should show in this game, and it goes back to what I've been preaching all season long. When you have young players, they're intertwinable. You can take out anyone at any time if they're playing bad. Any single one of them. You're not Logan Stanley being a staple on the third pairing is a joke to me. Guy's been nothing but mediocrity, and he's young, and I want him to improve. But when you have a guy like Ville, a guy like Dylan Sandberg, Declan Chisholm, Jonathan Kovacevic, the list goes on of how many young defensemen you have in your system that are killing it. Give them an actual look when Stanley's not doing so well. Because what's the point on using one young guy, burning out the rest, never giving them a proper look, and then never actually being able to assess and see what you have down there? This is the
we have
first
a
time we've
problem.
seen Dylan Sandberg play for the Jets in over 2 years now.
We have a
With this
problem
club.
though. Is that the problem is that this is mostly because everyone was on COVID protocol, and we don't play again till Tuesday.
Yeah. And
what are the odds that we're gonna let all of those guys play?
Apparently, some of the most of the Jets that are in COVID protocol cannot leave America right now.
I don't want to get too
serious?
far
Yes,
with this.
they have a quarantine
Good.
there. So
Well, I don't want to say good, but you know what I mean.
we
Like,
might have a situation where we could see
let
this
them
in the
play.
game.
Let them play.
Only thing I wanted to say, and this was kind of going off what Jake was saying about, for example, Logan Stanley, is when you have a guy there, as much as you're taking him out to give another guy a chance, it's one of those things where by taking him out, you can sometimes really light a fire under that guy to get him going. Logan Stanley, when he's going and he's playing that aggressive game and he's playing shutdown defense, absolutely love him as a third pairing defenseman, So by taking him, if you want him to play better, sometimes you may have to, piss him off a little bit and, let's get going here, This is there are consequences for not performing. There are consequences for going out there and being told to do your job and not doing it.
How do you feel about that?
And by having consequences,
I'm gonna say I think you're both wrong with Stanley.
What?
And I think you're right methodology. Like, you're correct, Carter. If you're not playing well, there's consequences. But I actually don't think Stanley's playing that bad. I think this is the time they need to invest in Stanley through multiple games, like 50 games.
Yeah.
They've given him Nate Schmidt, which is huge. Schmidt didn't get demoted. Schmidt, if anything, got promoted. This I can tell you in the room, without even being there, Lowry tapped on Schmidt and said, "You're the leader of leaders right now without a letter on your jersey. You talk a lot. You're very positive, and Stanley needs help, and he needs to learn to play this game the right way. And likely, if I give it to anybody else, they're going to bitch and moan. You probably won't." And he goes, "Yep, I will show this kid how to play the game." That's, in my mind, what the conversation was and how it went, and that's how you invest in a young guy. If Stanley was not working hard in practice, if he was pouting, if he was purposely making shitty plays, then yes, you got to bench him. But I think he's giving it his all, and Lowry is going to invest the 20 to 25 games required for him as a head coach to see what he's got with him with Nate Schmidt. Because if you take him out too soon, Carter, I think you could ruin him.
He has played over 50 games, though, now. He played the entire
under
season.
Lowry.
Okay, under Lowry. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, got a robot in the chat. Carter, if you can hear me, you're lagging, so stop talking.
Do both.
Alrighty, well, Carter will be back in a second, but alright, should be
Zach,
in a second.
it's leg Zach too. Yeah.
There we go. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, it wouldn't be an episode of the Prairie Puck if it wasn't for the Nolan household's infamous Wi-Fi.
Infamous.
It's not even that bad. It's just bad, like, at times.
Okay, it seems terrible every time I talk
We
to
had
you.
no, like, we did a live stream earlier, no problems. And now it's like, oh, they're gonna try to be cool to their friends. Time to shit all over their day.
Yeah, well,
like,
apparently they just hate me and Ryan, man. Like, oh, you want to talk with the guy in BC? Fuck that.
Fuck that guy in BC. He's a closet Canucks fan. Can't allow that.
I do have Canucks jerseys in my closet right now, so we should keep that on the down low.
You're allowed to be a fan of two teams. It's fine.
Oh,
Enjoy
I know.
hockey however you want it. People get too uppity in comments everywhere I go. Like, I'm only on hockey communities because you have to be. Like, you get so sad with how people yell at each other about nothing. Like, so what? You want to be a fan of two teams, multiple teams, bandwagon, fair weather? It doesn't matter. Who cares? You're paying the money. Enjoy it how you want. It's your time. It's your life. Do what you want.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Yeah, you're good.
There we go. Sorry about
You're
that.
good.
Hey, don't worry about it.
Back to the defensemen. I'm very happy we got to see the depth of these two, and the benefit to cycling them in when you ask that question would be, if you give them more of a chance to cycle in and they end up being productive, then you can actually look at trading one of the top four. And I know that sounds like blasphemy.
I said that in my video tonight, actually.
If you end up with two strong bottom players and they look like they're NHL ready, ship them out, get some picks, rebuild. I mean, I know they're humans. I know they've dedicated to the organization, but they have value. And if you got young guys that can take it, you do it.
See, I couldn't agree more with that, Ryan, especially because, like we've said multiple times on this episode, we are a team out of the playoffs up against the cap. There should be no one safe other than maybe, actually, scratch that. There should be no one safe from being traded possibly when you're a team underperforming this badly. Excuse me. I all I would say though about your point though about rotating defensemen, and we'll leave it after this. My big thing that I come down to, which more of has been a Paul Maurice issue in the past, so hopefully with Dave Lowry it won't continue, is playing players that are struggling, being mediocre, not really improving their play. And in my opinion, Logan Stanley has had improved play this season compared to last year, but has struggled, I would say, the last 15 games. I think he's been really, really, really down in that area. And like I give fair credit to what you said about playing with Schmidt. That makes sense to me. I couldn't agree more about the whole you captain without the letter situation right now for the room. I really agree with that. But when you have a young guy, like for example, like a Ville Heinola, who's thriving at every level of professional hockey he's played in within the last 2 years, World Juniors, AHL, NHL when he's getting given an opportunity, and everything in between. It's hard for me to justify playing mediocrity when you have such a potential piece of your team that can help you win just sitting there. And it's kind of how I feel about Cole Perfetti sometimes. But again, old regime, new regime, we're going to have to see how time plays out with that. But that's kind of what's really kind of rubbed me the wrong way with Logan Stanley the last season and a half, I guess I would say, more or less the 20 games. But even that whole, arc of him playing with the Jets, I've just been upset because I feel like we have better players that are not getting the opportunity he's been given when he's shown that he's still a weaker player. But again, tomato, my own opinion, and I respect yours completely, Ryan, and see where you're coming from.
I've got my money, Jake, that Heinola doesn't make the roster for another 2 years. He's going to take DeMello's spot while the other 5 stay there. And the reason is he's going to follow the same path as Josh Morrissey. It was 4 to 5 years to NHL lifetime for Josh Morrissey. They're going to take their time with Heinola. They have no reason to rush him. They're not going to run out of anything with him. They don't have to worry about re-signing him. Whether it's right or wrong is not.
So no Bernie Sanders memes anymore.
That's
hopefully.
what I was going to say too. He's already shown he's been unhappy in the past with not being played. So I just don't want to see him ask for a trade out because we've seen young players become discouraged with less minutes with Winnipeg in the past, and I just don't want to see Ville become another check on that table of guys that were upset with not given opportunity. And it's not like they need to be given opportunity because you earn your opportunity in the NHL. But again, like I said, these are guys that have succeeded at every level and done everything that they can to deserve and get an opportunity to play and continuously get passed up on it. And I know Ville's in COVID right now, so I'm not talking about it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just talking about the overall arcing, timeline of Logan Stanley versus Ville Heinola the last season and a bit. That's all it comes down to. But I just really think that you should be able to. I don't know. Where I'm trying to go with this.
Let's also remember something. Ville Heinola's rookie, not technically rookie season, but his first stint, his first
came out that year. So,
but his first ever actual try, where they give you the couple games and they say before they can actually it affects your points. His point production and numbers were actually good. He had 5 points, I believe, in 7 games or something like that. It was one of those things where it was one of the question was seriously.
Why take him out?
Do you want to run? Because you were talking about Seth Jarvis, and Seth Jarvis pretty much first opportunity he got, he ran. They kept running with him,
and then
it's one of those things where you kind of just you go back and think you're what if I just ran with him then? What if we weren't so worried about
conserving
keeping him for the future?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hate the idea, and you see it in every hockey form. It's not just a Jets fan thing. It's
it is every.
Fan.
No,
it is every.
It's in MLB. You hear it in MLB all the time.
Everything.
Pitchers have it.
In the NHL, you have no pressure to save his contract. 0. You need the entry-level contracts to win the cup. Well, you know what? If Heinola ends up cracking it at 18, plays his full 3 years, which would have been year 4 this year, so it's okay, ooh, no, the contract's burnt. Well, would he have made $1 million? 1.5?
Depends how good he was.
Hit. Yeah, he likely wouldn't have blown up. He's not
going to be given a long-term deal. Ryan's completely right.
So it would have been a bridge.
But that experience is invaluable, and at some point you got to push your chips in to win. And sometimes that's the kid to help you win. The Chicago Blackhawks, people said they won with entry-level contracts. I don't think Chicago Blackhawks sat there 1 iota going, oh my God, we're going to waste a contract. They immediately inserted.
They said, no, we're going to win a cup. Ha! Make it 3.
Yep.
Exactly.
And they invested. They invested a lot of time in those young kids in the middle 6 to make sure that by the time the cup went, we all watched them. We're like, oh my God, where'd all these superstars come from? Well, they were rookies. They just got a chance to play.
The Jets don't do that, unfortunately. We really wait until our guys are men. We don't let the boys play. Laine, I always thought was a weird situation because even though I just thought, I assumed as a fan of the sport, that obviously this guy is going to crack the day one. And I'm not going to lie, after a while, I kind of got a little nervous about that once the Jets drafted him because, you look at their track record, and that's not the case, really. Mark Scheifele made it in his first year, was terrible, and then they sent him back down, and he didn't get an opportunity for about a year and a half, I believe, before he got called up because he went back to the OHL and then spent some time with the Moose.
Yeah, you could see why though. Mark Scheifele was a different player than those other ones. He could barely stand.
I'm not
Bambi.
I'm just saying that, like,
He was Bambi.
It's just something that happens sometimes. Like you said, Josh Morrissey is a really good example, right? Like, a lot of people are calling Josh Morrissey a bust. I watched him a ton in the WHL out here, and I really liked his game, and I was patient with him as a fan, and I feel like even though he's had some ups and downs in his young career so far, I've been very happy with his play and what he's provided to this franchise.
Well, who was the LA Kings second round pick? Big guy from Canada. After centerman, I'm forgetting the name.
Second round pick? What year?
Second overall pick. Second overall. Pick,
oh, Quentin Byfield.
Byfield, thank you.
He got injured immediately.
I was thinking
Byfield's
Byfield.
a truck, and he didn't get to play in his first year. Owen Power is literally a man among boys already, and isn't playing in his first year.
Some players don't do that though.
So what?
Like, example of that. But then it gets into this whole culture argument that we've talked about before. Is that do you have kind of that boys club atmosphere where you have to earn that opportunity before even if you're a really good kid who's got potential? Because some franchises and some coaches, they just don't play the young kids and give them that chance to see what they can bring at the NHL level.
Because they're too afraid that they won't tank. Because half the time they're afraid that it'll ruin their tanking. That the guys are actually going to show up.
Yep,
that's true.
Like, give Ottawa credit. Ottawa is somehow able to tank, but at least you can see that they were actually trying to put a competitive team. Like, they were going completely against culture, and they're kind of paying for it because they're kind of like they're tanking, but they're not tanking perfectly, like the perfect tank like Montreal. But they're actually playing it very straight. Like, for a team that is run by Eugene Melnick and Pierre Dorian, they've actually been very straight up about what they've been doing.
You're right.
Absolutely. So we know we have a 4-game road trip coming up because home games don't exist anymore.
No.
Taking a look at the schedule, you got Washington, Nashville, Boston, and Pittsburgh in that order.
You need 2 to 3.
You need 3.
I think we need 6 points. You need 6 points.
One of them needs to be Nashville.
It has to be Nashville in regulation.
I was about to say that, Ryan.
Yes.
You always stealing the words out of my mouth, man. If you give Nashville a point in that game, you just take the loss. Like, that's just going to hurt you down the standings way more than it will if you got 2 points.
So who are you more worried about the Jets dropping to then? So we know we have to beat Nashville. Who are you most worried about between Washington, Pittsburgh, and Boston, Carter? Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh, with how great they've been doing, and now that Gino's back in the lineup for them. Like, I mean, in his first game back, he put up 2 goals, and I just think that Pittsburgh really they're on a hot streak right now. And I'm with the Jets kind of uncertainty with, win here, a loss there. And, it looks like, because it's so strange because we'll have some of these games like, today's game, which was a pretty solid game, all things considered. We got the win and whatnot. But it's one of those things where can I see them building off this and continuing? I really hope so. But when we go to play a team that's been as consistently good as Pittsburgh has been, especially in that past 10 games, like I think they've won at least 8 of them, at least. I don't know. I think Pittsburgh's going to be the hardest one.
Okay, Jake?
I would say Pittsburgh because of everything that Carter just said, but I'm going to say the Capitals just because they've had our number lately. Every time we play the Capitals, we just don't show up. So, and since we're going to be playing in their building, it's just I'm iffy about that one.
They've had our number since we were in the Southeast.
They seriously have. God damn, why you gotta bring up those memories, man?
Remember when we played in the Southeast? Zach,
God.
What do you got?
The Southeast. What a...
Rounded the list very nicely, and I will say that this is going to be the fucking game where Tuukka Rask gets his first shutout, because you know it's happening. You know it's going to happen. You know it's going to happen.
Why do you gotta
every
say
single time. No. Because I'm putting this out there into the world before God can steal the words from our lips and make them reality. I am getting this out there now that I am afraid that this is Tuukka Rask's first shutout. If he hasn't got it by then, he's getting it then, because life just works funny. And all the time we see these monumental games happen against Winnipeg.
Scott Foster, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. Also, that same game, Duncan Keith hit a certain milestone as well.
But you got to remember with Boston, though, Zach, I watch a lot of Boston. Yep, David Pastrnak hat trick, Tuukka Rask. They end up beating the Flyers. You look at the score, you think this is good. The Flyers almost won the game with 18 shots.
I'm afraid more of playing
Boston goes like this, and then their defense or their goalie just totally collapses at the
Typical
worst random
Boston.
times. And so they are a freaking roller coaster.
Well,
they're going to be tricky.
I'll say
They're
yes.
gonna be tricky.
Right. I would just say that, well, also, too, I wanted to kind of just round out the worries for each team, considering you two guys really started that trend off really well. I would say the worry that I have against Boston is mostly that if we go down against Boston, while I see Boston's defense being pretty pedestrian compared to the other two teams' defense, I would say that if we fall below, like, early to the Bruins, that's a tough climb back, especially if we're still working with a very inexperienced team.
Well, here's the lucky thing about those 3 games. We should get 2 backup goalies, is my guess, out of those 3 games.
Mikael Burden, baby.
No. I think he means like against.
Against. We should be playing 2 backups at least between Pittsburgh, Washington, Boston, and
Jeremy Swayman.
Well, he's in the AHL now.
Linus Ullmark.
A $5 million backup is when we play Boston, we're getting a good goalie because they have 2 good goalies. Washington and Pittsburgh may put in their backup because they're in a playoff position already. And when you play Western Conference teams, when you're already in a playoff position in the East or in the West or vice versa, that's a good time to sneak in your backup for a game because if you lose it, it's not a detriment. That's why the Leafs put in a backup when we played against them. It's really, really common. So we may not run into the hotness that is Tristan Jarry right now. But I think the keys to Pittsburgh...
The hotness that is Tristan Jarry. What a sentence.
Right now.
What a sentence.
Incredible right now.
What a sentence.
The hotness of Tristan Jarry,
What can you say?
you
He's
can
just
crack
gorgeous,
this
right,
nut
boys?
because he's got PTSD. From
You know what, Jake? You want to talk about glove hands? There's your glove hand. Tristan Jarry. Right there. Shoot on
going
him.
back to Zach.
No. I just needed to make it known. Shoot on him.
Yep. Well, if you can get 2 goals in on Jarry early, you're going to beat the Penguins.
Yep.
The problem is Jarry's running with so much swagger and confidence right now, and so are the Penguins. You may not get 2 goals, but if you do, you're going to win. Washington, you've got to out-hit them because they're old, slow, and heavy AF. But the Jets never really had a problem with that. I'd have concerns with the AHL roster, though, playing that way because they're just not as big and tough as the guys we have that are out right now.
Yeah.
So that's tough. And you need Luke Dubois in that game to really take it to Ovi. You can't take anything to Ovi. Ovi's a freaking truck, but you got to find a guy like Luke Dubois.
Just tie him up.
Ovi and tie him up and slow him down because Ovi's having another career year because, of course, he is. And Boston, you only got to worry about 4 players. If you can get through the 4 players, the perfection line, and you can hold McAvoy at bay, you'll be okay. You don't want to go on the power play or on the penalty kill against the Bruins. That's a huge key. Do not go into the box against the Bruins. That is a recipe for disaster.
Yep.
It's pretty much like, this is pretty much playing like a depowered version of the Colorado Avalanche, for being honest.
Who?
Boston Bruins.
No.
They're big. I would say based on like their reliance on a certain line in the power play.
What are you talking about? The Colorado Avalanche have 3 defensemen in the top 30.
Okay, I mean in terms of offensive output.
In the way the offense is structured, I understand what he's trying to
Yes,
say in that
thank
sense.
you.
So you're saying
And
they have
the
top
defense
line.
is different.
Yes.
Okay. Well, the bottom 9 of the Colorado Avalanche is much better than the Bruins' bottom 9. But
That's
you're
why
right.
we say depowered.
Handling the perfection line, and I'm still unsure of whether the perfection line, which got broken up by the way, Pastrnak's playing.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, they're trying to spread it out. So
Wow.
Go back to it at any time. So they've got the 4 spread out, but the perfection line versus the Landeskog line, I've always struggled as to what's the best line in the NHL because it's really close. They're both very good lines. I think the difference with Colorado, though, is Colorado is just heavier line. Like, nobody gives credit to how big and tough Landeskog is. I saw a bunch of, how can you let Landeskog push you around? Go stand next to Gabriel Landeskog and you'll
Guy's
figure
a
it out.
giant. Swedish
He's a
giant.
freight train. And he's tough.
Very.
He's tough as nails.
You guys remember when
know,
the Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler line was the top line in the league, huh? Simpler times.
Stop lamenting on the days of the past.
I can't. That's all I can
It's
do.
another decade,
have
my
you
man.
seen-
You're a decade away.
Okay, Jake, well, do you want to take us out on last thoughts as we approach the hour here?
You know what? I would love to. Absolutely. We've done a lot of talking, boys. A lot of fighting, too, Zach. I'm going to be coming back to that off of camera. Don't you get me started on that again, but let's leave it there. I think that going back to the whole start of this episode, talking about the Jets, I think we kind of all really hit it on the head, really, really dead on about how we all feel about this team. And even though there are a lot of similarities that bleed over into each other's opinions, they're all very different in their own way. And I think that's how every Jets fan kind of feels. We all have the same major gripes, same issues that we can see, but then everyone's got their own things about why, what if, and this. Ryan's points about going back with chemistry and everything like that. Carter about how coaching implemented at the start of the season beforehand. Zach on everything else that we've just talked about this whole hour as well. There's just so many different paths to this conversation that you can take. I really think that what it comes down to is that the Jets over-evaluated themselves going into this season. They really didn't take a look at what the real issues were. They looked at the surface level like all of us did, or at least the diehard fans like myself did, trying to believe that this team still had that 2018 core that could continue and could try to build off of that Western Conference final appearance. And I think at the end of the day, we all need to accept as fans of this team that that's not happening anymore with this core. And that maybe with the prospects coming up, we'll have a chance, but that something needs to be done within the locker room to shake up how everything's structured right now, because this team plays they're not the, it's not even about how they play. They're just not the same Jets we've seen in years past. The players themselves aren't. This just isn't the team that we all became fans of. And I really don't think I could say it any better than that. So that's kind of just how I feel at the end of this. Even watching the Jets win tonight against Detroit 3-0, it felt weird because when was the last time you could say that you watched a game where the Jets actually played well and consistently dominated play almost the whole game? And then it was hard to think about that. I was like, shouldn't we be stressing out in our own end? Shouldn't we be worried on the penalty kill? Everything else. But I just think that this season's a write-off. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to be excited for every game still. But I don't have the expectations I had going into the season at the 34 game mark that I did, preseason, even by the 10 game mark, I would say. So I'm going to throw that to you guys. Say what you will, and we'll round out the rest of this episode.
You pretty much covered everything.
Sounds about good,
there's nothing for me to say.
Yeah.
I was stewing with that for a while.
I'm still going to say I'm going to be the oddball out. I'm still going to say I think the Jets are going to make the playoffs.
I think they still can. I just don't have faith in them, but I know they probably can surprise me. I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
They're gonna clinch the division in a week.
Shut up!
Shut
up!
For me, I definitely have the faith that we can do it. For me, it's a 50-50 crapshoot, though.
Same. I respect that.
I won't be quite as cruel as Money Puck.
47 or whatever the hell they said.
47, my ass.
37.
Oh,
it used to be 88. Where'd that go, Money Puck?
Nice.
Well,
hey, gents. Well, thanks for having me back on for episode 20. It was fun jumping back in.
Anytime. You're a part of this forever, man. We have you signed your soul, man. Just like when you die, you're going to be a co-host.
Just like Billy Hanel, we're holding on to your rights and we are not paying you.
Ryan, this is hell, man. Conversations with us never ending, man. Me and Zach bickering and everything else.
As soon as the Nolan Hockey podcast blows up past 1,000, we need to host a debate or a fight between Jake and Zach.
Hell yes. I'll fly to Winnipeg and put on the box.
I was going to say, I'm not flying to your neck of the
I wasn't
woods.
thinking an actual fight. I was thinking a YouTube debate, but if you want to punch Zach...
I'll throw down. Hockey fight? Put me on skates. I'll break my ankles, but I'll still knock his ass out, man. I swear to God.
Jake's going to be shooting for double leg takedowns.
I'm taking Zach. In a hockey fight, I'm taking Zach.
Yeah, you good.
I'm taking Zach not because I don't think he would be able to dish out more necessarily than Jake does, but because of how crazy Zach is and how much adrenaline he has, he doesn't feel pain.
It's not even that he doesn't feel pain; he's just an idiot.
Exactly. Dude, he could be literally concussed, blacking out. I feel like
no.
One at me, man.
I'll be
That could be unconscious, but still throwing punches.
My sense of feeling will drive me from that.
Like his arms will just keep going.
I can assure you both at a hockey fight though that's pretty entertaining. And I was told before we sign off today we were playing beer league. I didn't realize how greasy I really was in beer league. But I got, like it took my brother to tell me on the side. He's like, man, I have never watched a guy play beer league, jab a guy in the back of the leg, trip a guy.
Dude, that's me every game I play.
When you were telling us these stories at the MTS Center, I was just kind of nodding away. I was like, okay.
You fucking
not normal. This is not normal.
No, so we played a kid last week. So like I said, we played in an old guy league. We're like the last division. And it's funny because I can play from Div 1 all the way to Div 10, and I'm still the same player. And I do play from Div 1 to Div 10. So I was on a Div 10 team for some reason. Good guys on the team. And this kid was playing at a junior, maybe 19 years old. He looks like he looks way too good to be playing Div 10. So he ends up cutting in, and I was like, I've had enough of this. I just stand in front of him, clearly take an interference call, no problem on that. So he ends up pushing me, so I just pull his stick out of his hand, and he punches me, and I give him his stick back. And he goes, why'd you take my stick? I'm like, because we got coincidentals. We sit in the box, and the kid starts trying to roast me, and I end up shutting him up by saying, I'm 34 years old, man. You're the one who got cut from junior here at Beer League.
Oh! Woo!
Oh,
Ladies and gentlemen, that is what we call in this industry a mic drop, and I think with that, we have to have this episode right now. So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Prairie Puck Podcast, episode 20, like Ryan said at the start. We all have a great time doing this, and we know that you all have a great time listening. So thank you for giving us this hour of your time. We hope you enjoyed. We'll be back with another episode soon. We'll try to make it less than, 2.5, 3 month, 1,000-year wait that it's been. Quarterly interviews that we do.
Days.
We will try to get one scheduled up soon. Maybe have a guest on, whatever we could try to do. You guys know that we always try to entertain, and that's all we can strive to do. So with all that being said, peace, love, and positivity from all of us here at the Prairie Puck Podcast. Happy New Year. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, whenever you're watching this. Go Jets, go, and bye-bye.